disconnect to you?
I think this point that you make about the disconnect is really, really important. But I do want to add in a little bit of optimism, because we risk being too gloomy and doomy in all this. And it's an optimism that was triggered by something that General Mount said. The European Union actually did respond with incredible speed and effectiveness to first the economic and financial crisis, and then the sovereign debt crisis. And the reason that we all have bank cards that work today is because of the success of that response. But the European Union I'm talking about is the European Central Bank. And the way it responded is so difficult to explain to someone who's not trained in financial economics that it's unsurprising that people are not very happy about what the European Central Bank is doing. As a matter of fact, while the European Central Bank was saving Europe's economic and monetary union, in the first 4 months of 2009, popular trust in the European Central Bank in countries like Germany and the Netherlands and France collapsed. And for the first time, the people who didn't trust the European Central Bank outnumbered the people who did trust the European Central Bank. So the European Central Bank was doing everything right, including a lot of things that nobody had ever done before. So it was innovating, thinking on its feet, acting, and it not only didn't get any credit, it was getting a lot of blame. This point about blame, I think, is really important, because it's going to come back to this disconnect issue. We have global institutions, but more often than not, we use those global institutions as ways to deflect blame from national politicians. The whole myth of the Washington Consensus is nothing if not an attempt to deflect blame onto the IMF for the unpleasant decisions that many politicians in other parts of the world, outside of the United States, outside of Washington, had to make. We had a Brussels-Frankfurt consensus as well that we used to talk about in the context of the Economic and Monetary Union, and it was used to deflect blame against national governments. And within the European Union, the practice of deflecting blame onto European institutions is so deeply ingrained, it's unsurprising now that people are mobilizing against them. We've been in a popular legitimacy crisis at the European level since December of 2001. And this crisis is not going to go away so long as the habit of deflecting blame onto these institutions continues, so long as politicians are willing to reach for the easy answer as opposed to accept the difficult reality. The difficult reality is, if we let Greece default on this debt, that is a transfer union, because it was German savers who gave them the money that they're now never going to pay back. Yeah. And so if the goal is to avoid a transfer union, then we want to create the conditions for the Greeks to pay back their debt. And the only way to do that is to make sure that the interest that they have to pay is not one that bankrupts them. Because if it bankrupts them, then our money is lost.